Hello, moms. Good afternoon, and welcome to another session with Marelize. I am your host for this afternoon, actually, Shanae Vijendranath, and I am joined by expert Marelize Botha, who is a pediatric occupational therapist and play expert. Welcome, Marelize. How are you doing?
Fine, thanks, you.
I'm good. Great to have you back on the Mom Says Tribe. And of course, today we are focusing on milestones for a 6-month-old baby. But before we dive into that, I'd also like you to share your contact details of where moms can contact you on and just tell us a little bit more about what you do.
Yeah, my practice is based in Linden in Johannesburg, and I see kids, babies until there's no age limit, but my main age of clients is about up to grade 2, and we focus on developmental delays, sensory integration difficulties, whatever can help a child or facilitate a child or his parents to be as functional and happy as possible. That's what I do. And my email address is on the screen. You can contact me. I think that's the easiest to contact me if you want to come and visit us in the practice.
Awesome. Okay, so before we get in today's chat, we have some exciting news. We have a prize to give away. So this chat is sponsored by Korbell South Africa, meaning we have a diaper bin to give away. Why moms prefer the Korbell diaper bin is because it's an economical bin refill system. Simple and convenient hands-free operation, keeps the room smelling fresh, which we all need. Durable and hygienic. The nappy bins are made from heavy-duty ABS plastic, which is extremely durable, very easy to clean, and completely resistant to odors from soiled nappies. So it sounds like a bin that every mom needs. It also converts into a traditional diaper bin, which is yay, so you will always end up using it. Completely child-proof, environmentally friendly. Korbell's 100% biodegradable liners are the most environmentally friendly nappy bin liners available. Oh wow, that was a mouthful, but yeah, it was worth it. So you can find the nappy bin available at Baby City, Baby R Us, Baby Boom, Checkers Hyper, and online. So thank you so much, Korbell Diaper Bin, for sponsoring today's chat. Moms, if you have any questions for Marelize, please put them down in the comment section below. As I mentioned, you can win that diaper bin. All you need to do is share this live video, engage with us in the comment section, and tag a friend or two who you think would gain from this chat. So, Marelize, I have a few questions for you regarding 6-month-olds. Like, we know that stage of development is crazy. There's so much happening when baby turns 6 months. So the most popular question that I found is, when it comes to solids, there's so many different approaches on where you start, what you should start. But I've heard about baby-led weaning, and I'm curious to know, does it actually help with development, and what is it exactly?
No, so baby-led weaning, 6 months is a little bit young, or I don't think you often see it in 6 months. It's more after a year, 2 years sometimes. And that's when the baby feels that emotionally and nutritionally they are capable to actually have enough without drinking anymore. So either a bottle or then still breastfeeding. But usually you see that baby maybe have enough food, but he's not emotionally secure yet. So then you will still have a baby reliant on being fed, breastfed more often. But I think it's important that if the baby is fed enough nutrition, as well as the emotional parts taken care of, you would see that a baby will start self-wean. And that's a good time to keep on encouraging it, because, we actually want to get there and have this baby, I don't want to say independent, but in a more independent way, eating and moving around, not being reliant on a parent for his feeding I mean, obviously the parent will give the food and buy the food and decide on the food, but eating is a nice thing that actually also encourage independence in our children.
So having them pick the food up on their own is actually
and
good,
also,
because I know it's like texture and stuff, right?
Yeah, and also, I mean, you don't want a 4-year-old playing with food, but a baby playing with his food is actually great, because then he feels the textures, he smells it, he sees it, and then he will obviously put it in his mouth as well.
Awesome. Okay, so my next question to you is, I know a lot of moms actually tell me this when we chat about crawling, etc. And I've had actually a relative that had a baby that did this, but my baby slides around his or her tummy. Is that normal?
So by 6 months, 5 months, 6 months, your baby wants to become mobile. And that's the phase, this whole phase of 6 months to 18 months is actually that getting mobile from crawling to actually walking. And so if your baby shows you the interest of actually trying to maneuver himself to get to something, and he's on his tummy and he's around 6 months, 5 months, by 7 months we want the baby to start crawling, then it's fine. But if your 9 months baby still just bum shuffles or sail on his tummy, then we must have a look why he doesn't want to bear weight on his shoulders and his knees, because we need the shoulders and the knees to get strong. That's why they weight bear and crawl. And there's lots of other important things that happens when the baby crawls. But if he crawls, then those joints, the hips especially, get stronger for eventually standing up and walking. So the first steps before maybe crawling, a tummy shuffle or bum shuffle is fine. But if it remains there, then it's something that you have to look into and facilitate proper crawling, more tummy time, lying over a roller or a rolled up towel or something to reinforce the weight bearing on the arms and the hips or the knees. Yeah.
Okay, so this one is, when will my baby stand on his or her own? Is there a certain age that this should happen, or it just depends on baby's development?
Normal age for walking is around about 12 months or a year. So you would see your baby reaching up or pulling himself up on furniture or against your leg or whatever from roughly 11 months. I mean, development always can happen earlier or later. I mean, we don't worry if it's not by 11 months, but we do worry if a baby is still not standing up by 13, 14 months. So from 10 months, you can expect that your baby wants to be more upright, preparing for walking. And that's when you can start facilitating him standing, holding him, getting that balance, because that's how they practice. The muscles has to get strong enough to actually bear the weight and then be the balance good enough to actually then put the one foot in front of the other.
So hello to our new viewers that have joined us. I see Shalane, Simone, Adeline, Teresa, Stacy, Desiree, welcome. And as I said, you can pop your questions below in the comment section and we will get to them soon. So my next question, Marelize, is, when should a baby start crawling? I think all moms, are anxious about this.
Yeah, I think I touched on it earlier. Around about 7 months is a good time, or is the expected time for a baby to start crawling. So if you have your baby in tummy time, you would see by this age, if a toy is out of reach, they would try to maneuver to get that toy. And that's also the way to facilitate it a little bit, to just have something just out of reach, something that you know that they want, because then they would start moving. And you can facilitate it, like I said, by putting over a roller, a small roller, or you can roll up a towel just to lift the body and to put him in the off hands and knees position, and to facilitate it a little bit. But we're not, like I said, this development phase, I would say 7 to 9 months is a good time to start crawling. So if your baby doesn't start crawling on day and month, 7 months, it's not a problem. But yeah, within that spectrum of about 2 months, you would see it. You must always remember that a premature baby, you always deduct the time that he was prem from this developmental milestone. So if your baby was 4 weeks prem, you would only expect these milestones from a month later, 4 weeks later. Yeah.
Wow, that's actually a good point you made there. Don't compare premature babies to full-term babies. It's a whole different ballgame.
Babies. I mean, if your baby was in the ICU for how long, they must first catch up with the foundational things. So don't force your baby into reaching milestones. It's much better if development happens in the right order, then your foundation is stable and strong than forcing the next thing to come if he's not ready for that.
Yeah, I think there's just so much pressure on moms.
Yeah.
And, when you go out and meet other moms, and like, oh, is your baby crawling yet? Because my baby's walking. And then, you feel like, oh, is there something wrong with my child because my child's not crawling yet? And you end up having that mom guilt to feel like you're not doing something. So I think this is so educational. Just, it's like a refresher to know what exactly happens at different months. And, this is a milestone 6 months that we're talking about, because baby is going through a lot of changes, and it's a whole new world, right? So we have a question from Teresa. She wants to know, is it bad when a baby skips crawling and just starts walking?
We see a lot of babies or children that actually did that. And yes, I don't want to say your baby has to crawl for 4 months before he walks or whatever. But the position your baby is when he crawls is with his head down. We call it inversion. And that's a very important phase for your vestibular system. That's your system that registers and promotes the movement to develop. So your head needs to be in that position of being upside down for that system to actually be stimulated and triggered. So that's why we want the baby to crawl. And with that, like I said earlier, the weight bearing on the hips and the knees and the shoulders is forming and strengthening those joints that we need to be strong enough to eventually be able to walk or to do monkey bars or whatever. So your shoulders and your hips are your main joints that has to be as strong as possible for the other joints to actually be functional. So that's why crawling is so important. Then there's lots of theories of crawling has a good influence on maths. I don't know how they prove that, but that's the motor benefits of your body actually being in that position is what we want. And that's why we recommend that a baby does crawl. So sometimes if the other thing, but children that walk before they crawl usually walk very early. So if your baby is walking on 10 months, never crawled, you must also look at the sensory involvement. Doesn't he like being in that position? Because if your child doesn't like being upside down or in a position where he's not in control, that's the ones that you would get standing up before they're actually ready for that, because they don't like the position. And that's your children that you have to go back to and actually play crawling games and crawl through things and under things just to facilitate your body being in that position for that vestibular movement sense to actually develop.
Makes perfect sense. Okay, I think we have another question here. Oh, this is actually a good one. So, is it advised for baby to rather crawl than using a walker?
Yes. A walker takes that weight bearing on your hips away. And now your baby is mobile, so you can get wherever you want so quick, because the wheels, he just needs to actually push that wheel a little bit and it goes. So there's no effort of him working hard with his body to get where he needs to go. So taking a baby out of a walker, crawl, and then expecting him to crawl is definitely not going to happen because it's too much hard work. A walker in the sense of having him safe when you want to do something, you can't watch him crawl, but I don't think, it's not necessary to have that, but yeah, your baby needs to be on the floor using his own limbs, his own muscles to get from point A to B.
Okay, so the next one is my baby is still not sleeping through the night. Why? Because I know there's this whole perception has in baby should be sleeping through the night at certain amount of weeks. And to be honest, none of my kids did that. I mean, I have a 3-year-old who still wakes up like 4 a.m. for a feed. So Marelize, tell us more about this.
You must look at how disruptive that awake period is. Is he wide awake, or is it just a feed and then he or she goes back to sleep quickly? Does she sleep in the day and not enough at night? So you have to look at the bigger picture. The important thing is that your baby gets enough sleep. At this age, we look at about, I would say 10 to 12 hours is during the whole period of 24 hours. So if you have a good afternoon nap, maybe stretch him a little bit later before he goes to bed. Again, if your baby wakes up hungry, is it maybe better to give him a more nutritious meal at night? If he wakes up because it's a habit of drinking 4 o'clock in the morning, is she hungry? We have to look at a lot of things of why it's happening. But I think if waking up and going back to sleep quite easily and quite quickly, then you don't really, it's not sleeping through. It's waking up and being awake. Then you have to adapt on maybe the environment, maybe looking at white noise, little night light, what is waking her up? And then, like I said, is she hungry? Is she scared? What is the reason? And then you can remedy that reason. But I don't think you have to feel ashamed if your baby doesn't sleep through. Many children doesn't.
Yeah, and it's also like, how do I get my baby to sleep? Like, because is it out of habit that my baby is waking up every night? Because is it comfort? They're expecting that bottle, or
maybe
is something disrupting their sleep?
The thing is, try to limit the engagement at that time. So if it's a bottle, give the bottle and walk away, or stay there, but don't talk and sing and wake her up more than what's necessary. Maybe just the feed and go back to sleep. Because if it's not hungry, it's an emotional thing, and then they need that interaction. But that's not appropriate time. Then you would rather let her go to bed a little bit later to make that time 6 o'clock, and then spend time together. So it depends on how awake she is, and does she sleep again? And then does she sleep till 10 o'clock after that, or does she wake up at 7? It's difficult to, there's not a strict rule of, you must look at the situation.
Okay. So the next one is, should I be reading to my 6-month-old baby?
What the content of the reading should be is debatable. Stories is very nice because you can use your voice, the tone of voice. But what your child needs from birth and forever is to have that quality time, to get the vocational, the vocabulary stimulation, your voice, what is a loving, and then to actually get them to have a fantasy world of knowing what's, of thinking the impossible and believing the impossible until you have to face the big harsh world. So reading is always a good thing. Talking to your baby, singing, you can't do that enough.
Okay. Next one, what toys are appropriate for a 6-month-old?
A good toy for a 6-month-old is something that expects a little bit of action. So if you have to press a button to get it rolling, or those pop-up toys where you have to press the button and then the cow jumps out, where you expect from your baby to do something to get the input, the output, because our children are living in a world of quick gratification. So the toy must sing, otherwise I don't like the toy. So we need this baby to actually do something to get it out of it. And if there's a little bit of movement and facilitating locomotion on your baby, it's also a good thing. And then again, fun, colors, different sounds, different shapes, different textures, just to stimulate all those senses that we actually rely on later.
So Shalini is becoming a mom after 7 years, and she feels so overwhelmed that she's forgotten everything. 39 weeks today. Wow, congratulations. You're almost there.
1 more week to go, hopefully.
Yes, definitely. Okay, so we spoke a little bit about routine earlier. How important is it to have a routine for a toddler? Like, I mean, of course, everything around them, they're getting to know touch and feeling. And yeah, so like with routine, I think it's very confusing, as in when do you actually have a routine set in place, especially for a toddler?
Yeah, I think the sooner the better. You must just always remember that your routine doesn't have to be set in stone. You as parent have to be comfortable. And if you are comfortable, you will set an environment where your child feels safe. And that is what they need. But a child with sensory challenges, a child with attachment challenges, they need an environment that's predictable. Later age, we want to take the predictability a little bit away, but the more they know what's happening, what's coming, the more they're on control, and the less out of control tantrums, meltdowns you will actually see. Because sometimes it's just the environment is just too much, and the change is too fast and too harsh, and that's why you see a meltdown. And sometimes you don't see the meltdown in the moment. It's a build up, and eventually something little will trigger that meltdown. So routine is the best place that you can actually structure your environment. You must just be careful not to feel that the wheels are coming off if a day doesn't work out the way you expect it to work. So be a little bit flexible in your routine, but try to keep to a routine, because it will make life easier for you and for your baby.
My baby cries when he or she sees strangers. How can I prevent this? And is this actually normal? Especially now with COVID, I'm guessing it would be.
Well, the important thing again is how severe is it? How often is it? And what is the environment it happens? Is it with granny and grandpa? Then it's quite difficult, or with uncles that actually love this child. Is it necessary that your child sees these strangers? I mean, do they play a role in their lives? Often just warning your baby, or you interacting with those people before you expect them to interact, help. Because, I mean, it's difficult if you are in your house with lockdown now for 6 months and you haven't seen anybody, and suddenly there's a big wide world that you don't trust. So your baby needs to be comfortable and feel safe. So if you're in the environment with them, it usually helps. But don't force interacting with strangers if they're not comfortable. And that's usually a big family drama if this baby doesn't want to hug and spend time with granny and grandpa that stays in a different city, because they don't see you often. But just let them be around and see that everybody else is interacting with that person, and suddenly you will just see it happening. It is a sensory overload to see strangers and to suddenly those people expecting from you to jump in and play with them. Everybody is not comfortable with it. But if your baby always cries and is always unhappy and everything is an issue, get help, because it makes life easier for you and for your baby if you just have that little bit of support. And you as a mom, your instinct, you will know that this is normal, or it's totally freaking you out because you're a social being. And then then there is support and guidance to work through that situation.
So I just want to spend more time on this because I have a friend who has a son. Well, he was born just before lockdown, and then he spent majority of his early days in lockdown. And now, when she's going out to see people, he just cries, no matter who it is. If he doesn't see his bubble, his circle, immediate family, he cries immediately, doesn't stop crying. Now, when do you know that it might be something bigger? Like, how long do you wait, or how many times do you test this out with a child? And like, what if they don't stop crying? Is there any way to make them feel comfortable? I mean, it's overwhelming as a mom. Like, you won't end up going anywhere because you're so scared. Like, even if you take your child, well, of course you shouldn't be taking your child out now. Let's not get controversial on the whole COVID thing. But in a non-COVID situation, how would you deal with this, and who do you reach out to if you can get help?
I would say, obviously, first rather take him to or invite people into your house that he's still
Okay.
in a known environment, or keep him in his pram or something with his own toys, that it's some comfort zone, there's something known. And then also not interacting with 10 people at a time, but rather with 2 or 3. And those people, sometimes just having these people in the room, not expecting him or her to interact. But if your baby just cries all the time, maybe the noise is too much or the light is too much. So try and eliminate what do you think is actually causing the anxiety, because there are different things that would do it. Is it really the strangers, or is it the strange environment? Is it the too much light, too much noise? And then you can start eliminating it like that. If you feel it's really out of hand and it's too much and you can't handle it, the occupational therapist is usually the person to go to because of the sensory integration training. So just make sure that they've got a background in that, just to help you to know and to eliminate or to identify what is the issue here and how can you treat it.
Okay, so we have another question. When introducing solids, is there a specific amount that one should introduce? Marelize, I don't know if you could answer this.
It's difficult because, again, your baby, at first, I don't think you actually introduce the solids to feed them. You introduce it to make them used to the textures of the taste, everything, and then you would start giving solids with his milk or breastfeeding still. So your baby will lead you. You will know if he's had enough or not. There are lots of nice books that you can read that gives you guidance on how much and how often. Sensory Toddler Sense, I think it's the book by Meg Foray.
Yes.
Has and Feeding Sense. I think she's also got one of a Feeding Sense one. That there's good guidelines of how much, how often, what textures first, those kind of things. And ask for help. I mean, a friend or a mother or a grandmother or whoever will always. I mean, sometimes they give advice that you don't want, but in a very serious conversation, other moms will always help you to know what's going on. But if your baby, I mean, your baby will tell you when they're hungry. They will cry. So I don't think you would. You will know. You will have an idea.
Follow your gut.
Yeah, follow your. Trust yourself.
Okay, going back to routine. Adeline wants to know what's the best time to give baby a bath. Is there such thing as the best time, or does it tie in with routine?
It ties in with routine, but I like to advise parents to bath your baby or your child or even a grown child as soon as possible before bedtime, and then to have a nice, calm environment, maybe a little bit of essential oils in your bath water, lavender is good, dimmed lights, and moving from there to sleeping, because that helps with that winding down. But a good bath in the middle of the day with lots of toys and lots of noise is also good. But your baby won't sleep as good after a bath like that just before sleep time. So, I think a bath is a good warm water help to facilitate that winding down, moving towards falling asleep.
And you touched on a very good point there, as in how we bath baby. Like, I mean, as moms, we also get excited to want to make sure that they enjoy their bath. So we put all those toys in there or bubbles or, just to make it fun for them. But if they are, what's the appropriate word for it? Is it too much going on?
And then stimulation,
yes, stimulation. That is it. Yes, I was looking for. So it's too much stimulation. Then of course, baby is not wanting to sleep afterwards because their brain is so.
I mean, in the heat like we have at the moment, a bath in the middle of the day, playing in cold water with lots of toys, lots of noise, bubbles, whatever is amazing. I mean, that's good for your baby, but he won't sleep after that. So for a normal day, facilitating your child to actually wind down to fall asleep, it's good to have it just before sleep time.
And does the room have anything to do with that as well? Because I know, some parents debate, should I have bright colors in my baby's room or not? Should I have toys everywhere or a mobile plane? Because that's all sensory, right? And I don't know, what's your thoughts on that? Like, how should bedtime in the afternoon be for a toddler? Because first of all, it's very hard to get a toddler into a routine or to, know, okay, now it's night time or whatever. But around them also, it can grab their attention, because I know with my boys, if they saw a toy in reach, they would immediately get up. Like, I want that. And then that disturbs the routine. So what's your thoughts on that?
So rule of thumb is to have the area where you actually want to sleep as stimulation free as possible. Soft light, not colors are not, I mean, say the bedding is bright colors, it's not going to influence the sleep, but the walls, if you have a pink or red wall, the whole room will be that color. So it's also depending on how sensitive your child is, but muted colors, natural colors in the sleeping area, little distraction is actually facilitating sleep. They say it's better to have your mobile on your changing station than in the bed, because in bed is sleep time. And if you can teach your child that from little, it's much easier to actually eventually get them as a toddler and then a little child also to fall asleep.
That's a very good point that you made there. We have another question. So how do I wean my 2-year-old off his bottle? He only wants it in the middle of the night. It doesn't matter what's in it. During the day, he drinks from cups and glasses. I'm also struggling with my little one with this. I'm not sure, Marelize, if you are the right person to answer this question.
So sucking is definitely calming down. So we suck to calm ourselves down. So obviously your baby needs that comfort of sucking. So have the bottle in reach that he can actually reach it himself and take it away. Leave it again when he's tired again. Because, again, don't facilitate the engagement of mommy bringing the bottle, because sometimes they just get used to that and that's what they want. So at nighttime, you can take your own bottle and drink and leave it again. We don't worry about nighttime sucking, if it's a dummy or a bottle or a sippy cup or whatever. I would say at the age of 3, you can start thinking that, not even as a rule of thumb by 3, but round about 3, it's the time that you would wean all nighttime drinking or sucking. And then you can replace it with something else. There's lots of massages to actually get that proprioceptive system. That's the deep pressure, the sucking, the calming down system that we use to facilitate that, taking away the sucking of a bottle or a dummy and replacing it with something else like a weighted toy or a weighted blanket if your child still struggles.
Okay, so we know that, we spoke a little bit about being strangers being around, how kids behave towards that. But some moms, I don't know, as a breastfeeding mom, I feel like I struggled with it a lot more. Um, where my kids wanted me around all the time. Like even my youngest now, he will look for me like every few minutes. I wouldn't be surprised if he pops in while we're doing this chat. But
Awesome.
they do become very clingy. And of course, mom needs some time out as well. Mom needs a break. How do you deal with that, or how do you teach them to become a little bit more independent? Because as a toddler, they do have a little bit of independence. But is there any tips and advice on how a mom should approach this?
All children go through phases where they're much more reliant on the co-regulator, which is usually mom. And most of the times, us as moms like it that your child needs you and he wants you. But like you said, you also need the time out. So I think what's important is to always have another person that your child can trust. Even if it's daddy or the nanny or grandmother or whoever that's in his direct circle that you can leave him with and teach him in that safe zone, comfortable zone that you will come back. Because that's all our children need to learn is that mommy will come back. She won't leave me and disappear. She will come back eventually. And if it's with somebody else that you trust, they know that they can trust, it's getting easier and easier and easier. And then eventually taking them to school or a play school or just a little 1 day a week or whatever, just broadens this environment where he can feel safe and not reliant that much on you. But as soon as a child is sick or not feeling well or there's something emotional, they want that primary caregiver, the co-regulator back. And that's sometimes, so if you, usually on your worst day, your child is the most clingy because he can't co-regulate. He needs you to co-regulate and you are not feeling well, so he's not feeling well and it's just a snowball and eventually everybody is crying. Yeah.
No, definitely, I agree. And as you said, maybe getting someone else to also be that comfort. But I think with my daughter, like I used to, like if I needed to go out, I would just leave her, with the caregiver, mom, or whoever was there, and I would go. And then, of course, she'd cry for a while and then stop. But then I realized that when I read up about it, this is actually a bad approach because you need to say bye to your child so that they do know that you are going to return. Because if you just disappear, then also that could cause to them be more clingy because they never know when you're going to go, right?
Yeah, but it also depends on the age and how often you do it. I mean, sometimes we just have to run off and they won't remember it. But if you do it every time, you just disappear and you reappear, then it's difficult. So you always have to see things in context. But it's better to say bye-bye and I will see you in a while. They don't understand time, but I don't think before 1 year a child really would know the difference if you just for a little bit just disappear or go somewhere and come back, because before they actually realize you were gone, you would be back.
Okay, so this is an interesting one. My baby loves sucking his toes. Why?
Our children explore their bodies, firstly, by sucking. It's good for that midline orientation because we want them to have their legs and their arms and everything in the midline first before they go out and then crossing the midline. And it's comfortable. If you could reach your toes, maybe you would suck it as well. Because sucking is, like I said, calming. But you don't have to. There's not a lot of babies that keep on sucking for very long. So it's really exploring my body, knowing my boundaries, and get those limbs moving, and that's actually normal. So there's nothing wrong with it.
Okay, so every single mom goes through that. Some children are very good with it and some are not, but teething is a big issue and I know it affects eating and everything else. And is there any advice on what moms can do when their little one is teething, especially, because of course sometimes they touch toys and then put their fingers in their mouth. So how often should you be washing toys? Tips and advice on anything
We've
around
learned that
teething.
in this time of day, we learned that you could wash toys every day. Your molten spray bottle is your best friend at the moment. Again, every child is different, like you said. I think if you can see your baby is uncomfortable and there's pain, give him something that would relieve that. I mean, you know how you feel when you've got pain or toothache. It's not comfortable. It's not nice. Eating or chewing on something. So maybe have a chewing toy that you know that's the toy, that the go-to toy that you can wash often and keep that thing sterile. But I think it's a phase that you just have to get through. I mean, it's actually such a relief if your baby is not feeling well and fussy and you don't know what's going on, and then eventually you see that tooth coming out, oh, thanks heaven, it was just teething, and it will pass. So I think just keep them comfortable, and if there's something to chew on, to just get that itchy gums soothed, it's nice. You can have a rub on, or there's a big movement with the essential oils that you can use, and lots of good testimonies there. So you can just look, but what you are comfortable as a parent. But like I said, don't let them suffer. If you have to give a teaspoon of something just to soothe the pain, it's not, nothing will happen to your baby if you give something. And it is a phase that he goes through, and you will get out on the other side.
So you mentioned teething toys. There's some that can be refrigerated as well, right? Or you can put it in a freezer and it gets...
The cold is very nice on that gums. The other thing that you get is a necklace that you as mom wear that they can actually chew on, which is also nice. Yeah.
And then I heard about moms actually using breast milk to make like lollipops or something that they give their kids when they teething.
Yeah, I'm sure it will. I mean, the cold and the frozen, I'm sure it will soothe. I mean, at the end of the day, it's the frozen part that actually is soothing. Yeah.
The soothing, okay. And as you mentioned, you said the molten spray, right, for toys, to clean toys. Is that what you recommend?
I mean, I've been using it at the moment in my practice just for between clients. We clean nicely, and then also you can, I mean, like you put your bottles, you can make the solution, and you can actually have the toys in there and put it in there for 12 hours, and then it's sterile again. Yeah, like you would do with a bottle. And I'm sure you can actually, the baby toys, you can actually put in your bottle sterilizer that you put in the microwave, because the heat will also kill germs.
Okay, so as I mentioned that you can win with Korbell South Africa, we are giving away a diaper bin, and every mom needs this diaper bin in their houses because it has so many pros to it. I mean, it converts into a traditional bowl afterwards, so it's like, one of those long-term investments, and it's completely child-proof, so your toddler could not open the bin. And of course, the liners are biodegradable, which is one of the pros for me. So all you need to do to win that diaper bin is comment below, engage with us, share this video, invite a mommy friend to the Mom Says tribe, and you will be automatically in that list to have an opportunity to win that diaper bin. So we're almost at the end of our chat. I have one more question for you, and I'm sure this is like an easy peasy one for you. But for us moms, we're always struggling with baby proofing, as in what should or shouldn't be around. And even with toys, you have to be so careful on what type of toys you buy for the little ones, right, Marelize?
Yeah. So I think that you must go and stand in a room and think, okay, what can this child reach? So the first thing that you must always make sure is that chemicals, medicine, sharp objects is out of reach. But your child would, as soon as they get mobile, it's a different story. They will pull anything closer to get anywhere. So make sure that you don't have little chairs that they can move around, or blocks close to say the kitchen where the chemicals are. Those baby-proof locks for doors are amazing. And yeah, just also teach your child you're not allowed to touch something, and have a consequence when they do it, because at the end of the day, it's for their safety. So if you have to reprimand them today twice or whatever because that is something that's not safe, tomorrow or the day after, you would actually be glad that you did that. So our children also need to learn responsibility. So make sure that as far as you can, you take away those things, and baby gates of keeping them out of rooms that you don't want them to go into, or steps. But then also eventually have to expose them to things that is more risky, and that they have to learn and to listen, that when you say don't, it's something they have to listen. The traffic light system is actually something that you can, when you say it's a red light, they have to immediately stop and leave it. Orange light is a warning, and I mean green light is fine. So if you want to incorporate that in your on your reward, or your say your structure at home, that if you give a warning and this is a red light, it means leave everything you've got, and teach your children to react on what you tell them to do, because you actually try to protect them.
I just have one more question for you. So from a 6 months plus, let's just say 6 to 12 months, right? As we said, they get stimulated so much. Is there like a set amount of time that they should have like proper stimulation playtime? And I know you also mentioned that, towards bedtime, you shouldn't try to stimulate. But how many hours before that is it okay, to like kind of settle them down for the night? And everyone wants to know about TV, like screen time at that age, Marelize.
Screen time, if it's music and dancing and things like that, is not bad. 2 hours before sleep time, try to avoid it like the best you can, because the stimulation on the eyes, the light, the noise, everything is just too much. And I also think that structured playtime, you should try to limit 2 hours before sleep time. A baby of 6 to 12 months, the concentration span is not that long. So if you can have 2 or 3 sessions during the day of 5 to 10 minutes where you interact using toys, and the rest of the time, let them guide what they want to do next, and interact. You don't always have to entertain your child. Let them explore in a safe environment and learn how to entertain themselves, because you'll get very tired if you keep on being responsible for keeping them busy.
Definitely. So games like peekaboo can be encouraged, or letting them bang pots and pans. I don't know. I feel like babies are drawn towards that. You like wonder why you waste your money buying toys.
The thing is, I mean, if you're in the kitchen cooking, give them kitchen type of things to explore with. I mean, obviously safe, but putting lids on containers, taking them off, putting something inside, taking it out, that teach them actually, and you can go on with your task. You don't have to concentrate on keeping them busy the whole time.
So that can be part of play. And let's just say I'm cooking in the kitchen and baking a cake or something. Is it advisable to like give them different things like to touch for texture wise?
Yeah. Yes, always. I mean, the easier do it. I mean, if your baby is in a chair, a eating chair, and you put a little bit of flour on the surface for them just to touch and play with. I mean, even if they put it in their mouth, nothing will happen. I mean, they will soon taste that flour on its own is not nice, but it's a nice way of exploring, and it's a safe way of, and having them in your world. They feel part of your world, and you can go on with your task that you have to do.
Thank you so much, Marelize, for chatting to us today. I mean, you've given us loads of information. Yeah, I'm sure there's a few moms that will be sitting with a notebook and pen to take down all the important tips you've given us. And we will have another conversation with Marelize soon. So we'll chat to you soon, I guess.
Thank you so much. Keep well.
So thank you everyone for watching another episode with Mom Says and Marelize. And as I said, you can win that Korbell diaper bin. All you need to do is like and share and engage on this post. Invite friends over to the Mom Says tribe, because we will be having many more chat sessions like this. Also comment below and let us know what you would like us to talk about, and if there's anyone you would like to see on the live session with me. From myself, Shanae Vijendranath, the co-founder of Mom Says, I am wishing you a safe and well weekend, and we'll chat soon. Take care and be safe.